Disinformation Governance Board. Wait a minute. Isn't Joe Biden known for being one of the biggest liars in political history? I'm not making a statement. I'm asking a question. Isn't Joe Biden, isn't he the guy that plagiarized multiple times? Isn't he known, Joe Biden, as one of the biggest liars in American political history? So Joe Biden's regime wants to create a governing board, Disinformation Governance Board. Isn't that kind of the equivalent of Bill Clinton starting an abstinence organization? Well, apparently, this is where we're going. Joe Biden is starting a Disinformation Governance Board. We'll get into that with some clips tonight. We also have a major crisis on the border. A major crisis on the border with, what we said was going to happen. People lining up to get ready to come flooding over our borders, and it's already started with effectively Title 42 already being lifted. It hasn't officially been lifted, but in practice, it appears as that's exactly what's happening, as we were warned about weeks ago by Todd Benson, a regular guest on my show at Brandon House Live. Sadly, people are dying. They even have a stationary morgue that's already been placed on the border, and sadly, it's being used. I'll endeavor to show you the video clip today as one congressman pointed this out in a hearing. We actually had Jim Jordan, and then I think his name is Chip from Texas, two congressmen today, really making news with some gutsy sound bites. We want to bring those to you. But first, we're honored to be joined by Senator Doug Mastriano. He is running for governor of Pennsylvania. Senator, welcome to Mike Lindell's broadcast, the Lindell Report. Thanks for
me on. I'm honored to be here.
Well, Mike texted me your number today and said, hey, my friend Doug on. You are someone he has endorsed, correct?
Yes, I was honored to have his endorsement last month.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I also have, if you want to bring up a graphic, because you guys had a debate last night, did you not? Tell us about that debate, and there's a poll that's coming out of that debate, right?
Yeah, so last night it was a broadcast across the entire state, all 67 counties, and across the border in New York, Jersey, and Ohio as well. And it was the top four contenders. Now, top four in this was people who at least acquired 5% of the vote. So that included some people really don't have a shot. But still, the poll came out, and it has this morning had me 70% favorable as far as winning the debate, hands down.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
What is your website? Logan will put that on your name. What's your website, sir?
The website is doug4gov.com. Doug, D-O-U-G, number 4, G-O-V.com.
All right, Doug, there's the poll right there, doug4gov.com.
Yes.
All right, there's the poll right there. Let's put the back up there, Logan. There we go. So the folks think you won the debate last night handily. So tell me about are you in the primary right now? Is what I've got to believe you're still running in the primary, correct?
Yes, and the vote is 3 weeks from now, May 17th.
Okay, 3 weeks from now. Okay. And then who do you think you'll be facing and you may already know, I'm not following your race that closely, I apologize. Who do you think you'll be facing in the general? Do you know yet?
Yeah, the Democrats have bequeathed this upon Josh Shapiro, our Attorney General.
Okay, all right. So let's go to your website. We can show your website, Doug, and then the number 4gov.com. There we go. Proud husband and father. I'm retired Army colonel with 30 years of service. All right, so you're retired a full colonel, is that correct?
Yes, back in end of 2017. And my odyssey of getting involved in politics, I got to be honest with you, and never thought about running for office. Just wanted to be a soldier. Did that, for most of my adult life, most of my 20s, all of my 30s, all of my 40s, and part of my 50s. And it was time to retire, sadly. And as I was leaving, I took stock of my 30 years of service, spanning from the Cold War to Afghanistan. And I was really heartbroken with the reality that I was handing over the country less secure, less good, less prosperous than how I got it from my dad's generation. That's all fact. And I was really struggling with that. So much sacrifice, 4 years away from home, leaving my family behind so much, and 12 years out of the country, 12 moves. And as I was, I used to be on quite a bit on radio and TV talking about Russia and security in the Baltic region and Eastern Europe. Interesting how things are going down. But as I was doing one of my last radio interviews locally, I was kind of complaining off air to this young man of everything I just said to you. And he looked over at me and said, well, Colonel, do something about it. And that really hit me hard because it's so easy to complain and whine and point fingers, and those people in DC and Harrisburg, they're ruining our. And so one thing led to another, and we felt led by God to run, and ended up as a senator just before the COVID shutdown, and then obviously was a champion of reopening the state and taking the shots by the Democrats and trying to protect our elderly, which the Wolf administration thought it was a good idea. Dr. Levine, follow the science, Levine. Please, after you, Levine. I thought it was a good idea to send the sick back into homes, killing 16,000 and standing and fighting all these ridiculous policies. And then finding myself on the forefront of fighting for voting integrity after the 2020 election. And that's how Mike's paths and mine crossed.
Okay, so when you said that your paths crossed, were you at Mike's cyber symposium in August, or just you saw his work?
Yeah, saw his work, didn't make it to the symposium, but met him at some rallies. He actually came to Harrisburg with one of the bus tours, and we met him first there, my wife and I, and obviously hit it off since we're fighting for the same thing, voting integrity.
So, Mike likes to quote your state a lot because your state has this funny law, as he sarcastically says, that you're not supposed to be able to certify the vote if you have more votes than voters, but yet they certified the vote anyway.
Yeah, so Pennsylvania has a lot of issues. When you look at other states, there's a lot of Byzantine rules and policies. And in 1938, the General Assembly, the House and Senate, thought it'd be a good idea to hand the certification powers over to the state's secretary. And the state secretary is not elected, appointed by the governor. And so because of that, our Democrat governor and his very radical Secretary of State, Kathleen Bookfire, who since resigned in shame, by the way, they certified it despite Pennsylvania law. And very few of us actually stood up with, an outrage that you can't do that. But there wasn't enough of us, and none in leadership stood up with us. And another weird thing was on 30 November of 2020, we were out of session for an entire month. And so I was pushing real hard to get an emergency session, and nothing happened with it. It just kind of faded away. And it's really heartbreaking. General assemblies, houses and senates or delegates or whatever you can call in various states, you should never relinquish your powers to a bureaucrat, especially an appointed one. And so I actually have legislation to amend the law to get the power back to the House and Senate, so that ridiculous thing never happens again.
Did your bill pass?
It's still sitting in committee. It's actually a constitutional amendment. It has to move this year or next year for it to go before the people for a referendum. I also have legislation, of course, to end this month-long. Every 2 years, we're out of session. And this happens, during presidential election years. And I have a legislation to change the Constitution where we're never out of session like that again.
So tell me, who controls the House and who controls the Senate, Republicans or Democrats?
We have a solid Republican majority in both chambers right now, and you wouldn't know it by the lack of action. So
why do you think that is? We see that consistently, Doug. Whether we're talking Georgia and Arizona and a lot of these states, why do you suppose the Republicans want to? I don't know, be cowards? I mean, what other word can I give it?
Yeah, my observation, I've only been doing this for 3 years. My observation is the most important thing for many. Now, there's some fantastic people in the House and Senate here, and so we can't condemn them all. I'm part of the group. But for a good group of them, it's the most important thing is reelection and raising money for that reelection. And the status quo, don't rock the boat, just kind of get along and go along kind of thing. And that's why Pennsylvania and the United States of America generally is in such bad shape, because people entrust us with protecting their constitutional freedoms and, making sure that we guard those freedoms jealously. And, so few did anything during the shutdown, and so few did anything during the voting integrity fight, of course, in 2020. And so it takes bold leadership. And, I had no sights of running for any position. And here I am as a state senator now running for governor. And, we were propelled to do this because, thousands of people across the state literally pleaded with my wife and I to run. They didn't like the options. They saw no one that's going to really stand up for them. It's just going to be more status quo. And if we settle for another mediocre Republican, Josh Shapiro will win. He's more radical than our current Governor Tom Wolf, very appropriately named governor, by the way. And so the left, the Democrat National Committee, Democrat Legislative Campaign Committee, they saw me as a threat to their power base in Pennsylvania. They blacklisted 21 Republicans from various states across the nation. I was number one on their list. Teddy Roosevelt said you could, judge a man's character by who his enemies are. So thank you, DNC, for that. They spent, I think, six figures to defame me. They issued attack talking points to the various media outlets, both print and CNN and others, and hit me with their best shot. And they were shocked when after about 9 months of attacking me. And I thought it was bizarre that I was even being attacked by Los Angeles Times, New York Times, Washington Post, a state senator. Seriously, that they did a poll and they found out that their attacks were turned on. I'm like with Haman in the Book of Esther. They made me more popular. My negatives were single digit, and that had me in the lead for the governor race, which I wasn't even in yet. And so they were appalled by this. But the people they saw what they did to Donald Trump and with Mike Lindell, and the people aren't stupid.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Of course, we'll deal with it when Mike gets back. But speaking of people making fun of you, Mike called last night and he said, "Hey, have you seen it? Jimmy Kimmel responded to our offer to him this week." And so he texted over to me. And sure enough, Jimmy Kimmel's making fun of us and mocking us last night. And we all laugh. We all laugh I laugh. Mike laughs in good humor. It's getting the message out there, getting the word out there. I texted to a few friends, and they didn't respond positively. It makes them angry. It makes them angry when they see Mike and I getting attacked. Mike and I laugh about it. I think it bothers our friends more than it bothers us because we're thinking, "Hey, the word's getting out." The point is exactly that. The more these guys attack us, make fun of us, take our clips and chop them up like they do, the more it gets the base kind of realizing, hey, these people are standing in the gap for us. We got to come and get involved in this, right?
Exactly. So the Pennsylvania Democrat Party, of course, they took clips of the debate last night. Look at Astrid. I have twice the amount of followers on my campaign page than they do, 4 times the amount of what they have on my Senate page. I mean, it's almost a joke. And I look, it was released an hour and like 4 people had liked it or retweeted it. I mean, so the beautiful thing is, Elon Musk, I'm thankful for him. He's going to restore some of the freedom of speech here. But this is a fight in every area because Mike took it on the chin. He risked everything for what he did here. I really do admire his patriotism. He's a real patriot. And it was risky to step out because so few did. And I love how Mike views it because, no, exactly as you said, it's like, actually, now you're perpetuating our message now and you're making more people aware of our concerns. And I love that approach.
Well, if you saw, Mike said he's turning a new leaf this week. He said that he is now going to treat the liberal media a lot different. I don't know if you saw that this week. He praised one of the writers, I think her name is Cheryl, over at Newsweek. He praised Business Insider. And he said, you know what, I'm turning a new leaf because I'm going to start treating the liberal media a lot differently because, frankly, they're at least writing about me, whereas I get completely ignored by Fox and many of the outlets. They don't write about what I'm doing. They don't write about my injunction. He has introduced this week, Senator, an injunction. It's a complaint for injunctive relief banning the use of insecure electronic voting machines in Arizona. And on that, of course, the plaintiffs on there are Carrie Lake, who's running for governor of Arizona. And, of course, on there also is Mark Fincham, Representative Mark Fincham, who's running for Secretary of State. And, who's reporting this? The liberal media, the liberal media, the liberal media. And Mike's like, well, at least they're reporting on it. Our side sitting over here not reporting on it. So this week, Mike came out and said, I'm going to go forward. I'm going to treat the liberal media a lot different going forward because they're really helping us, So he does. He takes lemons and makes it into lemonade. I'll tell you that right now. Let me ask you about your candidate before we get into what you're running for and about. Tell me about your candidate. You said he's going to be even more liberal than your current governor?
Yeah, he's our attorney general. He won re-election, so this is going on his 6th year as attorney general. So why do I say that? Let me back it up with facts. During this shutdown, when Dr. Levine, who's now Woman of the Year and all this ridiculous stuff, follow the science, Doug. I'm always like, please, after you, what XY or XX anyway. It's bizarre. He promoted to admiral, second most powerful health official in the nation, and failed policies. During the shutdown, Levine, before New York, before California and Jersey and Michigan, Levine led the way by sending the sick back out of the hospitals into the homes on 19 March, and it unleashed the plague, killing at least 16,000 of our elderly, and so many parents were left to die alone in these long-term healthcare facilities. It was outrageous. Josh Shapiro had to do something. He did nothing for a long time. And then finally he decided he was going to, investigate the homes, the very homes that were compelled to force an order to take the sick back. And this is unconscionable. He's more worried about suing the poor sisters, the nuns, the sisters of the poor in Philadelphia, because he doesn't like their contraception policy, and took them to the Supreme Court over that issue. This guy is a radical leftist. It's funny though, one of the big local, extremely liberal papers in Philadelphia, it looks like I'm going to win the primary on May 17th, and they're terrified of the fact that Josh Shapiro is going to face me. And now they're saying we're concerned that Josh Shapiro isn't a tested candidate. Yeah, well, no kidding, because you gave him a free ticket, the Willy Wonka golden ticket. So
Willy Wonka golden ticket. So let's talk. That's good. Let's talk about you and what you're doing. Your website here. Okay, so I'm really impressed with the fact that you're a retired Army colonel. You made full colonel. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you for serving our country. I'm an advocate for business. When you were shut down, I stood at the Capitol and demanded change. I won't stop fighting for your rights to do business without burden. Boy, I'll tell you what, Senator, the businesses, what they have had put on them the last 2 years, and then you add in the punitive taxes and whatnot, it's tough to be an entrepreneur. This week I was reading Klaus Schwab's next book. He came out with The Great Reset. Then his next book that was finished up the end of 2021 and came out here in 2022 is called The Great Narrative. It should be called, his first book, The Great Collapse, not The Great Reset, because that's what it's all about, collapsing us. That's why they call it Build Back Better. You got to tear it down before you build it back. And then his new book, The Great Narrative, should be called The Great Lie. But in there, they lay out much of their plans, which includes carbon tax, and they call it a global tax, and it's going to, of course, be put on the businesses. And the businesses that don't comply, they openly say, if you're not going to comply under the peer pressure of society, then we're going to, so you better start complying willingly, because we're going to use the power of the law. We're going to shame you, and then we're going to use the power of the law to make you comply to ESG standards, environmental, social, governance, Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, sustainable development. So businesses, again, how are you as governor, you're going to address this. I'm hoping your state will address this head on and not let the bureaucrats, push this radical environmentalism, which is really Marxism, posing as environmentalism, while we let the Kyoto Protocol not apply to China, not apply to India, some of the biggest polluters. Can you speak to us on this topic?
I can. And Tom Wolfe thought it was a good idea to enter us into a Paris Climate Accord compact called the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. And he got us into this compact with 11 other states without a vote from the General Assembly. And what this does is we have to pay CO2 emissions so we have to buy credits, just like you mentioned, at the state level. This is going to drive. Now, Pennsylvania is the third greatest energy producer in the nation. We are sitting on a gold mine of natural gas, of coal, and even some oil. And we're the only energy producing state in this compact here. It's going to drive up energy costs for each person, each average person and business owner, around 30% increase, and it's already through the roof thanks to Joe Biden's inflation and his failed policies. It's going to cost us in the first year $461 million of new taxes. 2 years is estimated at $2 billion. It's going to shut down many of our plants in the state. One big plant in our southwest of the state is going to shut down this year, another one next year. It's going to be crippling. In a time when we need to be energy independent, Tom Wolfe thought it'd be a good idea to go into Reggie. Since he's doing it by fiat on day one, I'm going to sign an executive order getting us out of Reggie, and I'll be rescinding all these various regulations he put in place over the past 8 years that cost astronomically in Pennsylvania. We get no benefit from being an energy producer. You would not even know we're an energy producer in Pennsylvania with all the fees and extraction taxes that Tom Wolfe has put on it. So number one is making Pennsylvania, my goal is number one in energy. I want to be a net exporter. I want to build liquefied natural gas terminals at Lake Erie so we can get it to New England, also off of Philly so we can ship it to our allies. I spent a lot of time in Northern Europe with our Baltic allies. I met with the former Minister of Defense when I was a colonel in the Army back in 2016. Raza Jufikanitsa. I know I say her name. Lithuanian names are tough. They're actually a partner state with Pennsylvania. We send our soldiers over there, and theirs come here as well for training. She said, Doug, we need to get off of Russian oil and gas like everyone else in Europe should be. We want to buy it off of Pennsylvania. We have an LNG terminal, liquefied natural gas terminal off of Klaipėda, and we named it the Independence. we want to get it off of Pennsylvania. And so we can't get enough over to them yet, thanks to these failed Democrat policies. So that's number one with the business plan. Number two, Pennsylvania has some of the most Byzantine tax codes. They take you 18 weeks to read the 153,000 regulation tax codes we have. And so within the first 100 days, my goal is to strip Pennsylvania down to just under 100,000 regulations. And then I'll have the Trump policy where every new regulation to have to go. And that will save businesses and people millions of dollars every year. For instance, our Department of Environmental Protection sometimes has been weaponized to make life miserable for people trying to do stuff on their property or on their farms. They're going to have to be reined in. Right now, they approve 46,000 permits per year, and they take months and months, sometimes years, to get approved. We'll have a streamlined system here. We reduce the number of permits and additionally force DEP to approve these permits within a specific period of time.
Wow, excellent. Well, man, you have really thought this through. I'm impressed. Let me go to your next part of your website here. I'm a patriot with a doctorate in history. Now look at that. With a doctorate in history and more than 30 published articles on history and strategy, I'm passionate about my country's founding ideals. Tell me a little bit about, in closing here, tell me a little bit more about that. Tell me about your views on history, American history, some of the founding fathers, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and how you as governor see your position in light of the history of our nation.
So I'm really enthralled by our founder, William Penn. William Penn accepted Jesus as his Lord and Savior in his early 20s and became a Quaker, and kind of like an old version of Pentecostals today of sorts. His dad was appalled. His dad was a famous admiral that worked for King Charles II, also Cromwell before that, was appalled that his son would leave the Church of England, and disinherited him, disowned him. And William Penn ended up in jail 3 times for his faith. One time in the Tower of London, where all major, convicts go back in those days. King Charles II, as a favor to William Penn's dad, said, "I'll let you out early. Just deny your faith and join the right church." And William Penn said, "I'd rather die before I do that." And because of his faithfulness, when he was released from prison, his dad died, and King Charles II owed the Penn family a massive fortune of money, of loans. And God gave to William Penn what we call Pennsylvania. When he arrived here in 1682, he prophesied, "My God will make it so. We will be the seed, S-E-E-D, the seed of the nation, a holy experiment to do what is just and right." And in 1776, that happened in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where the light of liberty was lit. And anyone that enjoys freedom has that moment in time in Philadelphia in 1776 to thank. And then, of course, Pennsylvania, the struggle for freedom was tough. The Southern Democrats loved their slaves. That issue was never resolved. And so we had a terrible civil war. And anyone that talks about civil war, we don't want that ever again. I have said
that so many times. I'm like, people, you don't understand how bad that would be for our nation and our families and in our community. Oh, man, you're right.
It would be devastating, God forbid. And so during the bloody Civil War, it looked like we were going to lose. 2 years in, Robert E. Lee with his army in Northern Virginia invaded Pennsylvania, and we had the Battle of Gettysburg, 50,000 casualties, bloodiest battle in North America. But we had a new birth of freedom, as Abraham Lincoln said, in Pennsylvania. And then in his famous speech, he said, "It is up to us, rather, the living, to attend to the unfinished work." And so we do have this unfinished work of this vision that William Penn had of a free state that would become the leader of a nation, but more importantly, of a place where people can walk as free men and women. Our motto on our campaign sign, of course, is John 8:36, one of the verses very important to William Penn. If Jesus sets you free, you're free indeed. It's all about freedom.
Individual freedom. Free agents versus being slaves of the state. And sadly, Colonel, as you know, we are being enslaved. I talk about it often and have for years, the 10 Bill of Rights. I mean, we couldn't even get our Constitution ratified until we got those 10 Bill of Rights because some were very concerned about a runaway federal government. And then we get these 10 Bill of Rights that are being 10 handcuffs under the central government. Okay, now we're off to getting the Constitution finally ratified. But somewhere along the gymnastics, they took the 10 handcuffs off the central government, put it on the states, as you know, and now they decide when we have freedom of speech, when we have freedom of religion, when we have the right for peaceful assembly. So the 10th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, the powers the federal government have are limited and expressed, and the unlisted powers belong to the states and respect the people thereof, kind of been thrown out the window. How will you as governor seek to reinforce your state rights? Because again, people don't, I guess because we don't know our history, of course you've got your doctorate in it, but we the states, we the people created the federal government. Now we are being enslaved by the institution we created, for Pete's sake, because of those 10 handcuffs being taken off. So how will you set the example maybe on a national level to show governors and attorney generals how we as sovereign states, as independent constitutional republics, can not be the slave of the central government that we created?
By having a governor that's bold and courageous, that's a leader. And let me lay it out for you. During COVID, I hate the cold weather. So hats off to you up there, towards the north central part of our country. It's a bad when South Dakota starts looking like a decent alternative, for freedom. So what a difference a good governor can make. If you have a governor like Ron DeSantis in power that's going to exercise those constitutional freedoms and not be a coward and timid about it, but bold and courageous. Yes, you'll be singled out by the media, but it's about our oath on the Constitution. So if what Ron DeSantis is doing is fantastic. Love what he's doing. You think he's a good governor in Pennsylvania? We're going to make him look like an amateur hour under Mastriano. We're going to reassert our freedoms.
Well, you got to promise some great interviews here, because when you start making that kind of news, we want to break those stories right here on
Okay.
TV. Let's make sure people know. Logan, I think that's Doug with the number 4. Doug
Yes.
and the number 4, not FOR. I hope you bought both. Did you buy both?
I did, but I haven't diverted that page yet, so I need to do that.
Okay. But let's correct that for the record, folks. It's Doug and then the number. There you go, Logan. Doug4gov.com. Doug4gov.com. Okay, one final question. If you don't want to answer, I understand. You're in a primary. But let me ask you, any thoughts on your Senate race? Because that's sure got a lot of attention. And next week I'm going to have on the dear lady that's running for U.S. Senate against Dr. Oz, Kathy Barnett, correct?
Yes, and I've endorsed Kathy Barnett. She has a wonderful story. My wife and I have known her for several years. She was my keynote speaker at the Heartbeat Bill that I introduced. It was one of the first pieces of legislation I introduced together with Representative Stephanie Borowitz. And Revy thought it would be a good idea to have Kathy speak, because we met her at a Trump rally, and she has a powerful conservative values and a great way of laying them out to people. Did not know her story. We had a pro-life legislation event. She was conceived when her mom was 11 as a result of rape. I mean, this is like the poster child of the exceptions that Republicans talk about. Oh yeah, we have to have the exceptions. And she shared her story for the first time on that stage at a press conference in Harrisburg, our capital. And it was so touching and moving. I just grew to respect her so much more. And so she does have a powerful story about the right to life.
Wow. Well, she'll be on with us here on Lindell TV. I think I have booked her for 6:30. Yep, 6:30 on Monday night. No. Let's see. I think that's 6:30 tomorrow night. Yeah, 6:30 tomorrow night. So I have her on tomorrow night, 6:30 Central, right here. So it'll be a great follow-up. You have a beautiful state. I have been to your state. I've spoken in your state many times over the many, many years. And, of course, I love Lancaster. And it's a beautiful state, and it deserves better leadership. And I think you'll do Pennsylvania and the country proud. Thank you for your service. Glad you're running, and congratulations on your debate. And again, I want to reiterate the survey, the poll. You're going to show that again, Logan. The poll after last night's debate, 70% say that Doug won that debate last night, Logan. He's probably scrambling for our next guest. We showed the poll. There it is. 70% say he won the debate last night. So congratulations, Doug. And we look forward to more updates. And as you have reason, text me, let me know. We'll get you back on, because I know there's a lot going to be happening over the next days and weeks.
Thank you for having me on, and keep us in prayer in these final 3 weeks. I sure would appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Senator.
Thank
and
you.
Doug Mastriano. Again, I hope you'll visit his website. The correct email, the correct website is Doug, D-O-U-G, the number 4, gov.com. Go to our next guest. I want to go real quick over to frankspeech.com. Go right here.
Okay, make sure we're disconnected. So that was great. That was Mike Lindell's Lindell TV, and had been endorsed by Mike some weeks ago. Oh, there we go. Thanks for your support and encouragement and your feedback on the debates. This camera here is looking kind of weird. There we go. I don't know why. Sorry, guys. The hand to the screen. Thank you for your prayers for last night and your encouragement as well. Really am thankful. Thank you for your support and love. Thank you for praying. Yep, 80% this morning. So ABC had a ABC 27, the debate last night. As you saw, we were on a pretty tight set. We had like, I don't know, it felt like 6 inches between us. Like maybe it was a bit more than that, but it felt. And hour-long debate, 1 minute answers for the prime question, maybe a 15-30-second follow-up if appropriate. Shows some stark differences. You know, one of the guys that's very desperate, and millions of dollars spent on his behalf, and he's still polling really low. Donald Trump said don't vote for him, and because he chickened out when we needed him during voting integrity. Anyway, he came out, you know, trying to make a stink, and it just ended up backfiring on him. So it's just not worth recounting that. What a complete joke. We need another attorney for governor. So I had plenty of them. But they did a push poll, ABC 27, and this morning had me 70. And a simple question: who do you think won? And I had had the 4 pictures of the 4 candidates, including myself. And this morning, about 70% said I did. That's pretty overwhelming and unprecedented. So thank you for your love and support. About 3,000 people voted on that. It's a pretty significant poll. Many polls, many traditional polls, when they call you up, you're talking about 500, 700, maybe 1,000 people for the more expensive ones. But that's that. So. Trying to read some of the comments here. That's funny. F18, Doug Mastriano is Mr. Red, White, and Blue. That's a great compliment. Thank you. I love it. Scott Westmoreland, thank you. Judy, appreciate your support. Elizabeth, you are 100% the winner of the debate. Thank you. Thank you for being pro-life. Absolutely. Winner, chicken dinner. That's funny. I haven't heard that in many years. Phyllis enjoyed watching the debate. Doris, what's up, Doris, over in Philly way? Mark, I'm going to bring you on screen here. You're going to have to accept my invitation. Mark sent me. I rarely do this. Only done it a couple times. So, Mark Driver, if you're there, you have to accept the invitation. Westmoreland County is ready, Scott says. Thank you, Scott. So, yes, Vanessa is right. Next Thursday is National Prayer Day. Fast if you can. Spend your day in prayer with the Lord. We're going to have, I think we're having a gathering somewhere. And like the stare that I gave the dude next to me. Thought you're going to put him in a headlock a few times. That's funny. Thank you, Cynthia. Appreciate that. F18 has traveled across the states and the state of Pennsylvania and overwhelmingly sees our signs. That's pretty much what we see as well. Let me comment on okay. I guess Mark's gone. Diane rightly says, I wish there was a group to put people who can't have children with people who want to abort children and help both sides. I think that's a great idea. So my plan is, and not all pro-life groups are equal. I've seen some that were really, move heaven and earth to assist on legislation, and others have to be wooed. I mean, it was really eye-opening in some of the legislation that we introduced. We had a really, if you're pro-life and you're being paid to be pro-life, you have an organization that collects, donations from people. You think enthusiasm would be there for some of this legislation. So, always down with making legislation better, but generally opposing our work. Now I was at a pro-life event. I spoke, on day one. Money from directed towards the abortion industry. There should be none in the first place. It's the Republican General Assembly. But Tom Wolf, our governor, very liberal. Actually, him and his wife support Planned Parenthood physically by escorting ladies in to kill their babies. Really reprehensible. There is discretionary money, but there's also money that finds its way somehow in these sectors. And so on day one, whatever discretionary money is heading that direction, that ends. And my desire is any money that is currently being used directly or mostly indirectly supporting abortion industry in Pennsylvania would be used. I'm of the mind returning money to the people. That's your money. But in this case here, as we move to eliminate the murder of children in our state, that money has to be in place to help with adoption and foster care. We need to be very active about that. I would like that the churches step up and take the lead. Some have done a great job, such as the Catholic Church, and some Protestant denominations have been phenomenal, but not all. And so anyway, the money should be shifted from abortion to helping moms get through carrying their babies through term pregnancy, and then helping the kids to be adopted out or put in foster care. No, I'd rather not have foster adoption. We have a lot of kids stuck in foster care. I think the number is around 10,000 in Pennsylvania. It's been a while since I reviewed that number. It's pretty high. Maybe it's 15,000. I believe that's an accurate number. I haven't gone over that number in some months, so forgive my inaccuracy. Denise, good to see you. It was a good day. Lisa over in Beaver County, how's it going? We'll be out your way next week, I believe. Week after next. Judy says lots of signs in Indiana County. Lori's wondering when we're coming to Bradford. Yeah, Louisa, that was really weird that individual next to me would call me a career politician. What? What a complete rodeo clown. 30 years in the Army, only been in the Senate just under 3 years. And no, so these talking points from his expensive and overpaid advisors here are really ridiculous. And I'll mention when that individual had a chance to help us out with voting integrity, he chickened out. And that's why Donald Trump called him a coward. I'm looking to see if I have the actual quote in front of me here. Donald Trump actually came out with a release saying, don't vote for this guy. He's a coward, and he did his country great disservice. He had information to investigate voting fraud. He would have been a hero. On the heels of my Gettysburg hearing, it just kind of blew the lid off of the corruption in Pennsylvania. And when you have somebody with the power to do that and they chicken out and make an excuse why they didn't, that's terrible. So if they lack the courage, in a time we need it the most, they're going to do nothing for us as governor. It's a sham. So I do know that individual with his black money, with his dark money and his PAC money is spending millions of dollars on mailers and terrible TV advertisements. I know we're going to be okay because we're all smarter than the propaganda, lies, and distortion, taking things out of context. And but do correct the record, because do consider the source. The one guy that on the stage that could have done something, I was the only one that actually did anything the past 2 years. And none of the other three individuals or any of the others in the race that weren't included last night. It was they did nothing. But this guy had a chance to do something in December of 2020, and he chickened out. Cowardice. And for someone that likes to brag about his 3 or 4 years in the military, I don't see any evidence of courage there. So the reason why there's only 4 of us on the stage is thankfully that debate you had a poll at a certain level. Having the other individuals in that poll at 1%, 2%, or 3%, it's a complete waste of airtime. It's a waste of time. They have zero chances of winning if they're selfishly, in the race. They're sucking up oxygen. So you had a score. It was pretty low threshold, by the way. Normally it's at least 10%. This poll here, since most people are doing terrible, if you achieve 5% or more, obviously I was always well above that, usually in the 20s, usually more actually. With most polls with the rest decidedly behind me. So that's why there's 4. That was a good call by ABC. Thought it was pretty fair. They did give me a bit more of the harder questions than the other guys with their follow-ups, but that's okay. I think obviously the people believe I handle everything extremely well, with 70% saying that I won it. I mean, that's pretty unusual with 4 candidates up there. Another one of the other guys usually polls, within about 5 or 8 points of me, and still get 70% of the vote. I mean, it's incredible. Split 4 ways. So that's 30% split 4 ways with the other guys. Of course, the guy who came out with all his self-righteousness and his faux anger, he only got 5% of the vote. It did not work. Came across very unlikable, very stiff, very self-righteous, and very condemning. And thank you for being wise and discerning. So when you see the propaganda come out attacking me on an array of issues, you guys know the truth. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. John 8:32, which is painted on the ceiling of our house, by the way. There's Bible verses everywhere. Do not be afraid of them. Remember the Lord, great and awesome. And fight for your brethren, your sons, your daughters, your wives, and your houses. Nehemiah 4:14. Yeah, that's when Nehemiah was rebuilding the walls around Jerusalem. And he was invited to meet with those 4 individuals on the plains of Oh No. Say no to Oh No. It was an ambush. He didn't go. Had his men, half of them working on the walls, and half of them with their swords ready. So, how are we doing on time here? I do have a device here. 7:44. I'm going to open up my calendar real quick for those of you that care what's going on the next few days. I do have an event in Lancaster tomorrow, but it's a private event, so we are continuously. Our calendar is solid through the primary on May 17th. It'll be extremely difficult to add anything. Extremely difficult at this point. Okay. So tomorrow I will be on interviews a couple times. One will be for newspapers, so that'll be a couple days later. 2:30 tomorrow, I'll be on Real America's Voice on Common Sense program, being interviewed. They heard my interview with David Brody yesterday, and the host of this show is like, "Hey, I want Doug on." That's fantastic. Host is Anna Perez, and we'll be talking over a host of topics. I'm reading my notes here for the interview. I think you can imagine what we'll talk about. Saturday, we'll have an event at Morning Star Fellowship Church in Pennsburg. I'll be speaking, I believe, around 3 o'clock. There'll be a lineup of speakers there starting at noon. I have about a half hour. I'll be one of the last speakers, it looks like. So, yeah, I'll be up around 3:30, actually. Go to my webpage to register. You do have to register. Okay. Okay, Monday. Interview with Andrew. Oh, Andrew is the owner of Gab. I have a 15-minute interview with the founder of Gab. So if you do have a Gab, which we do, membership, whatever, we'll talk about election integrity and free speech and my vision for Pennsylvania. That's going to be great. That's 2 o'clock on Monday. Then again, I'm on Real America Voice Monday at 4 o'clock. I don't know if this is helpful or not to you guys. WPSU-FM. Okay, that's a Pennsylvania station. I hope it's not very left. Tuesday night at 6 p.m. Tuesday night, I'll be in Southern York County. This is a public event, the Pine Ridge Farm in Stewartstown, Pennsylvania. That's great. That's my wife's maiden name, Stewart. It's spelled the correct way. So 6 o'clock, Southern York County. There's a new Southern York County group forming to better represent their views, as there's a feeling from the main headquarters in New York City that they're being ignored and they're being run roughshod over. So they're having their founding meeting, which I'll be speaking. Starts at 6. even though it's York County, that this is like a 2-hour drive for me right here. Senator Kristen Phillips Hill will be speaking. I call her KPH, Senator Kristen Phillips Hill. KPH is amazing and awesome, and she does have a bright future for her, and one of the champions of conservatism in the Pennsylvania Senate. And also speaking is Representative Mike Jones, an amazing individual, a great man, a great House rep and state House rep. He's one of the few that stood with us in the reopen movement, voting integrity, and he hasn't wavered. I have a lot of respect and admiration for Mike Jones. So the three of us will be speaking. So it's a kickoff for the Southern York County Republican Club. And it's going to be fantastic. Hit the wrong button. And that's Tuesday night. I hope some of you can make it if you're within an hour or so of Southern York County. Wednesday will be in Northampton. I'll have a Vietnam pinning ceremony in the morning on my Senate side in Chambersburg. Interview with Rob Carson on the radio at 1:35, and then at 5:30, Northampton County over in Bethlehem, the Saucon Valley Acres. That's fantastic. So you do have to register for that one as well. At most of these, you have to register. I'll be on Bill Spadia radio. He's out of Jersey, but he does reach Eastern Pennsylvania. Met him at Washington Crossing this last Saturday, where Rebbe and I attended, and I was blessed to be a speaker there. It had a huge sellout crowd. It was fantastic. I'm getting requests for an August event. The things do get booked out sometimes. If you want me on a Veterans Day or Memorial Day, that's pretty much booked a year out now. And so this year I did put off a decision on that, but I do have 2 events on Memorial Day specifically, and a third event on the Saturday preceding. Whew, okay. That takes us through most of the week. Thank you, my friends, for your support. Yeah, Louisa, thank you. I'm not happy I have to stand next to someone who actually is talking like a politician, shooting their mouth off and lying. Matt, good to see you. Appreciate your support. A lot of questions I'm missing here. Saul Khan, thank you. Thank you, Rachel. Saul Khan, thank you. Ann's going to be with us Wednesday. Great to see you. Thank you, Rachel, again. Saul Khan, thank you for local pronunciation. Nancy says Somerset County loves Colonel Mastriano. What a great event that was last week. Sue Dar did a magnificent event. I know she had lots of helpers. It was standing room only. It was, I'm guessing, I don't have the actual numbers, looked like about 300 people. The tables were packed. People were standing in the back. It cost $30 to get in. There was food. It was a fundraiser. So $30 to get in. 300 or so people show up to support Rebbe and I. I mean, this is amazing. All the other competitors, all of them, none of them draw a crowd. They could offer coffee and donuts for free, and they'll get about a dozen people showing up. No exaggeration. And if you include the staff that ride with them and their drivers, I drive myself around, by the way. If you include all their drivers and all that, you're looking at maybe they get 15, 20 people in the room. That's it. And that's a free event. So we're so thankful for you guys. We had a good meeting up in Union County a couple days ago, and that was packed too. And that was another paid event, a fundraiser. And a local Christian band opened up for us, which is great. Rebbe and I love contemporary Christian music. So Tracy says, go to Biddy and Bo's in Bethlehem. It's a special needs coffee shop. That sounds fantastic. Love it. So I'm going to sign off. Reb's at worship practice right now, so she should be home shortly. So I'd like to spend a few minutes with my wife. So did lead a group of kids on the battlefield today. Most of the candidates take the day off after debate. I was out there leading I think it's about 19 or 20 young people and their parents on the battlefield. Don't have time for that, but I make time for it because it's so important to pass on the history of our state to the next generation. I really believe in it that much. I'll endeavor to continue those as governor, but it's going to be very few. It's going to, but what a great way to stay connected with the people. Because in these positions, the higher you go, the more and more disconnected you get, or more easily disconnected you get. So I'll try to continue those in some way as governor. We will continue the lives as well as governor. Some people have asked me that. Of course, I love communicating with you guys. And so thank you for tuning in. Have a great night. Thanks for your love and support. That was a great event at Lewisburg, Cynthia. I agree. And I want to thank all the people out there that are supporting us. And a lot of negative information. I tend not to address the lies. I think you guys have the information. I think on dougforgov.com, we do have information that you can rebut this stuff. I've talked about most of these things over and over again online, like Act 77. I knew that one individual Donald Trump called cowardly. I knew he'd bring it up, and I easily put it down, with one sentence. Like, Act 77 was hijacked by the Democrats and looked nothing like what the Republicans voted on. It's a fact. And actually, in that individual's letter last June 7th, June 6th of last year, he sent a letter to Donald Trump hoping to get an endorsement. And in there, he said everything I said about Act 77, that it was co-opted by the state Supreme Court and by Governor Wolf and by Secretary of State, and the law was changed and rewritten. Notice he knows the truth, but running for office, he's putting out hit pieces and ads that say the complete opposite. To know the truth and deny it is a dangerous thing. We don't need a politician, an attorney politician like that, who's going to say whatever they need to do to try to peel off votes. So brace yourselves. I'm told now there's a $4 million ad buy against me. You've been getting the mailers repeatedly. Hopefully has little effect. I think the ad and mailers are so badly written that most people are just like throwing them out. So Tracy Gettysburg's my favorite too. So anyway, I'm relying upon you, my supporters, to defend me, and the information you need to defend me, if you don't already know it by the months and months of me talking about it. Ask other people. It's folks have been private messaging me, hey, give me information on this, and it's just very aggravating and frustrating because I've equipped so many people with this out, and how do people not know the shit? You need to address this flyer. No, I'm not going to do that. If you can't figure out that it's disinformation, it's a lie. I mean, I can't help you. So we laid it out. So brace yourselves. Defend me from the liars and the trolls out there. There's one discussing individual that's supporting a guy that gets like 1 or 2% of the vote. This discussing individual actually says, I've done nothing to help veterans. Are you kidding me? What an insult. That's another Republican, by the way. That's what they're stooping to. So it's going to be outrageous the next 3 weeks. Just stay strong. Get the word out. Talk to your friends and family members. Vote for Mastriano, and get out and make sure not only you vote, but everyone in your household votes for me. Every family member and friend. It's the power of one vote. You have so much influence in your circle. You put that yard sign out there. You're basically committing and telling the world, you know what, Doug's going to be our next governor. But then take a step further and talking to people. Hand out palm cards. Grab shirts. Whatever it takes. We have a big bus tour coming up. We kick off on the 9th of May. We'll have stops on the way, starting in Chambersburg, 2 stops in between, with a final destination on the 9th in the Pittsburgh area. The 10th will be hitting Butler County, Lawrence County, with a final destination in Erie, May 10th. May 11th, we'll hit several places like Warren and Brookville, with a destination south of Du Bois, right off of I-80. Used to go past that a lot, driving across the state to see Rebbe. That's the 11th. The 12th, we'll have, I think I'm missing a stop here. Oh, we'll be headed over to Lock Haven with a stop in Center Hall and another place I can't remember. Clearfield Center Hall, 13th, ending at Lock Haven, and hosted by our great friends, Representative Stephanie Borowitz. 14th, the next day will end in near Lehighton, with several stops in between, one including Hazleton, and then ending on the Saturday, the 14th, in the Philadelphia area for a big rally there, and that will end our bus tour. We'll have a few smaller events before the vote, but going to drive across a good chunk of the state. That'll be a chance for 2/3 of the population of the state to come out and see us at these various stops. So to brace yourselves for that in a couple of weeks. Thank you. Praying a blessing over you that God will open the eyes of people who are being deceived by disinformation, that God will put a blessing on you and your families, and that we take back our state this year. And there's no more dithering. It's time that we move on to victory and get together as Republicans and stop believing the rhino propaganda. Thank you, guys. God bless you, and have a great night.